The human sat alone in the polished stillness of the lunar embassy, humming faintly while a kettle whispered behind him. The windows were starless tonight, shielded with dim energy veils, casting the room in a soft amber glow like candlelight through whiskey. He wore a pressed Earth Forces uniform, though his collar was unbuttoned, and he stirred honey into his tea with the kind of focus one might use defusing a bomb. His nameplate read, General R. Halvorsen. Outside, the assassin team breached the perimeter silently. 3 of them. No insignias. No flags. Not even a creed. The leader moved first, tall, insectoid, with gleaming razor limbs folded neatly across its thorax. Zeshti of the Sixfold, the most expensive killer in 3-star systems. It had murdered 4 popes, 2 monarchs, and once an entire village because the local governor spelled its name wrong. It did not fail. Behind it lumbered the brute, a Tuscan ironback, plated in chrome bones and chemical rage. Finally, floating behind them, the sentient vapor, known only as Whisper. It had no form, only temperature shifts, and a hiss like a slow leak in a dying ship. None of them spoke. Inside, Halvorsen hummed louder. "You're early," he said to no one. He poured a second cup. "Or perhaps I'm late." He did not turn to face them. Zeshti clicked once, a language built from blade edges. "You know why we've come?" "I do. Though I did expect a diplomat first. Maybe flowers." He took a sip. "Instead, I get a mantis, a tank, and fog." The brute growled. Whisper pulsed violet. Zeshti stepped forward. "Your death will be silent." Halvorsen exhaled. Steam curled from his cup. "I'm old-fashioned, you see. I find assassinations before tea a bit rude." None of the 3 moved. They were trained to assess body language, heart rate, pupil dilation, sweat. But this man gave them nothing. Only polite posture and the faint scent of cinnamon and bergamot. "You're not afraid," Zeshti observed. No, he turned now. Finally. Calm blue eyes. A faint, fatherly smile. "I'm not." Whisper shifted. Something was wrong. Zeshti calculated the angles, then struck. Faster than a blink, it lashed out. A strike designed to split vertebrae before the brain could even register death. It hit nothing. Where Halvorsen stood, only steam hovered. Then pain. Zeshti's mandibles cracked as it slammed into the far wall, crushed into the alloy with a thud that echoed like a funeral drum. It tried to rise, but its legs didn't respond. Something had cut through them. All of them. The brute roared and charged. Halvorsen stepped out of the shadow beside the kettle, no weapons in hand. Only a small silver spoon between his fingers. He threw it. The spoon struck a switch. The wall behind the brute exploded open, not with fire, but light. Blue grid lines. Gravitic traps. A net of impossible geometry. The ironback was swallowed mid-step, howling, then gone. Whisper panicked. It swirled upward, splitting into a dozen vaporous shards, each darting toward vents and gaps. Halvorsen sighed. "I was really hoping to enjoy this tea." He pressed a button on the table. The room vented. Slowly. Artificial vacuum, tailored to the vibrational resonance of Whisper's form. One by one, the gas streams flickered, screamed, and dropped like dying sparks. The final wisp collapsed into a crystal vial at Halvorsen's feet. He picked it up, examined it. Remarkable composition. You should have stuck to assassination. Politics gets messy. Silence returned. Zeshti, still conscious, tried to crawl. One arm worked. It reached toward its thigh, a detonation pod. Halvorsen walked over and stepped on it. Gently. "Don't be dramatic." Zeshti coughed fluid. "What are you?" Halvorsen knelt beside the dying killer. "Do you know what I really wanted to be when I was a boy?" Zeshti blinked. "A librarian. The quiet. The order. The smell of paper. But they told me Earth needed tacticians. So here I am, making tea while turning empires inside out." The assassin trembled. "I know what the Emperor told you, that humans are erratic, emotional, prone to violence." He leaned closer. He was half right. We are emotional. But what he doesn't understand is we choose when. He picked up Zeshti's blade, delicate, ceremonial, and coated in a rare paralytic. He held it out, handle first. You failed, Zeshti. But with dignity. Take this. End it as you wish. Zeshti stared at the blade. Then at Halvorsen. It didn't understand. It wasn't meant to. I don't hate you, Halvorsen added softly. You were just a courier. The message was the insult. Zeshti took the blade. Halvorsen rose and turned away. A soft schlick. Then nothing. He stared at the tea, now cooling. He poured it out, quietly. Moments later, the diplomatic envoy ship landed outside. 3 alien diplomats exited with haste, speaking into translation beads. Their eyes widened when they saw the door already open. Inside they found the scene. 1 assassin atomized. 1 locked in a crystal prism. 1 body curled beside a broken cup. And 1 human general, calmly cleaning a silver spoon with a napkin. They didn't speak. He did. Please inform the Galactic Council that their first strike has been returned. He gestured to the bodies. I suggest we pretend this was all a misunderstanding. Perhaps a case of mistaken identity. Unless, of course, you'd like to proceed with a formal declaration of war. The diplomats looked to one another. One of them, a Calvarian, began to stammer. This was unauthorized. Rogue actors. We. Halvorsen smiled. Of course. I believe you. He handed them a dossier. It was heavy. Inside were names, codes, coordinates, proof. Consider this a warning, he said. Not from Earth. Not from humans. From me. They took the file. Numb. He walked them to the door. Oh, and one last thing, he added cheerfully. Next time, send someone I can at least have a proper chat with. Assassins are so one-dimensional. He shut the door behind them. Outside, the diplomats fled. Inside, Halvorsen stood still, hand on the door. The hum of the kettle had stopped. The room smelled of iron and citrus. A soft chime sounded, encrypted transmission. He answered. A female voice came through, crackling. Did they send them? Yes. Outcome. He glanced at the blades still on the floor. They came to kill a man. They left realizing they don't understand what a man is. Good. You're clear for phase 2. He smiled faintly. Not triumphant. Not smug. Just tired. Send word to the council, he said. The game's begun. And as he turned back to the window, the veils receded, revealing not stars, but shadows. Dozens of them. Human ships. Cloaked. Watching. Waiting. The body bag was still twitching when they dragged it into the orbiting cruiser. Technicians in hazard suits stood frozen, watching the scorched sack pulse once, then go still, like something inside had just exhaled its last deception. They didn't speak. Protocol advised silence around anything retrieved from him. Even the AI monitoring system hesitated before logging the intake. Subject neutralized. Threat level unknown. Posthumous fear index elevated. In the observation deck above, Admiral Cyrex, of the Enati bloodline, stared through the glass and muttered, "What kind of diplomat does this?" No one answered. Behind him, the holoscreen blinked to life, displaying the still image of the man in question, General R. Halvorsen, smiling, holding a cup. No blood. No expression of triumph. Just that unsettling, practiced politeness. The Admiral turned to the translator node. Summon the delegates. Tell them he's coming. The node hesitated. By he, you mean? Cyrex nodded. He accepted the invitation. Across the stars, in a sleek Earth Forces diplomatic vessel painted with non-threatening shades of ocean blue, General Halvorsen stirred his coffee as the stars curved gently outside. He was alone in the lounge. Technically, 2 operatives were posted outside, pretending to repair a vent. The ship AI had muted itself preemptively. The tray before him held a sandwich. Ham, mustard, pickles on the side, cut diagonally. He picked it up, took a bite, and hummed faintly. When the call came through, he didn't look surprised. A shaky alien voice crackled on the comm. "We received your RSVP. Your presence at the tribunal is acknowledged." Halvorsen chewed thoughtfully, then swallowed. "Will there be refreshments?" I beg your pardon?" "Food, dear. Snacks." Last time I testified before the council, I nearly fainted. The trials go on forever. We will see what we can arrange. Splendid. He wiped his mouth with a cloth napkin and leaned back. Tell the tribunal I will arrive unarmed, unarmored, uninterested in formalities. The voice went silent for a moment. Then, the council demands answers. And I demand biscuits. Let's see who gets what first. He cut the call. Hours later, his shuttle docked with the Veritas Maxima, the largest diplomatic cruiser in neutral orbit. A floating cathedral of chrome and arrogance, pulsing with egos and subroutines. The welcoming party awaited him at the platform. 10 species, 3 interpreters, 1 body scanner, and a hovering orb programmed to detect sarcasm. Halvorsen emerged alone, wearing a pressed earth uniform and a neutral smile. His hands were behind his back, his posture effortless. General, began a now carry official, towering and silver-scaled. You arrived during uncertain times. Halvorsen nodded solemnly. Uncertainty is a form of opportunity, just harder to market. The sarcasm orb beeped. The interpreters panicked. He raised one brow at the orb. It shut itself off. I believe, the now carry continued, that the council seeks justice. And I, Halvorsen said, seek understanding. And maybe a comfortable chair. He paused. You didn't bring the blue one, did you? The official blinked. The what? The blue chair. With the armrest notch for tea. I requested it. We were unaware. That's fine. He walked past them. So was your emperor. The council chamber aboard the cruiser was nothing short of imperial. 10,000 species watched via holofeeds. The upper tiers buzzed with translators, blinking delegates, and panicked whispers. The dais was a semicircle of 12 judges, including 1 empty chair. Halvorsen was escorted to the center, flanked by 2 guards who clearly wanted to be anywhere else. He stood, alone, unarmed, human. Chancellor Dorvac, a crustaceous bureaucrat known for his rigid tone and exoskeletal diplomacy, spoke first. General Halvorsen, you stand accused of surviving an assassination attempt. Halvorsen offered cheerfully. My apologies. The Chancellor flinched. Of disrupting galactic order through unlawful retaliation. Of executing sanctioned agents. They weren't agents, Halvorsen corrected softly. They were assassins. Paid in crystal or I have receipts. Laughter rippled through the lower chambers. Quickly stifled. Another judge, a serpentine Urishi matron, hissed, you killed them with traps. I offered tea first. You dragged their corpses into a diplomatic vessel. I considered mailing them. But customs lines are dreadful. Are you treating this tribunal as a joke? Halvorsen's smile vanished. No, he said. I'm treating it as a reckoning. That silenced the room. He stepped forward, voice calm. Let's skip the theater. The Galactic Emperor sent assassins after me. Not a letter. Not a formal declaration. He sent blades in the night. That's not politics. That's cowardice wrapped in pretense. The now carried judge snarled. There is no proof your allegations are tied to the Empire. Halvorsen snapped his fingers. A brief flicker, and a hologram blinked to life behind him. Signed contracts. Biometric logs. An audio recording. Ensure it looks like an accident. No traces. We want the human scared, not enraged. The Emperor's voice. The room didn't fall silent. It collapsed into stillness. No breath. No data flow. Just raw, cold realization. Halvorsen let it linger. Then turned the image off. Now, he said, do I continue defending myself, or shall we discuss what happens next? Judge Dorvac sputtered. The Emperor will respond with force. Already has, Halvorsen cut in. And failed. Which leaves him 2 choices. Either he apologizes and pretends this never happened. Impossible. Or we escalate. You don't have the numbers, the now carry muttered. Halvorsen looked directly at him. You're right. A pause. Then he added softly. But we have the precedent. The chamber blinked. Words rippled through translation nodes like a spreading virus. Precedent. Halvorsen turned slowly, addressing the entire hall. In Clause 42b of the Intergalactic Code of Diplomatic Conduct, the one your own lawyers inserted, it states that should an act of undeclared violence be enacted upon a registered noncombatant, every party present at the moment of the tribunal is considered complicit in either cover-up or negligence. He paused. Unless, he said, raising a finger, they assist in the investigation and immediate de-escalation. The judges scrambled through virtual files. Panic. Then horror. Because Clause 42b wasn't just a rule. It was a trap. A legal snare. And humans had left it in the code 300 years ago. Quietly. Patiently. Waiting. Which means, Halvorsen concluded, if you don't publicly denounce the Emperor, provide legal condemnation, and sign the response declaration, Earth has legal authority to treat this tribunal as an enemy coalition. Silence. Then outrage. That's blackmail, a judge shouted. No, Halvorsen said with a smile. That's paperwork. He turned. Slowly walked back to the center. Earth doesn't need fleets. Or weapons. It needs laws. Loopholes. Patience. While your species were breeding warriors, we were breeding lawyers. The sarcasm orb exploded. Someone fainted. He looked at the empty chair. Still no emperor, I see. Dorvac rasped. You think this will end with your games? Halvorsen's voice dropped. No, he said. This will end with your empires realizing that humans never wanted to lead. We just wanted to survive. You left us alone long enough to learn your systems. And now, he raised his hands slowly. We're using them better than you ever did. The floor beneath him lit up. A signal, a silent one, fired through encoded pulses across the council ship. In distant sectors, human outposts activated. On hidden moons, cloaked ships turned toward the galactic core. In forgotten colonies, old emergency codes lit up screens long thought dormant. Operation Blue Curtain had begun. The council didn't know it yet, but they were already in checkmate. And as Halvorsen reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small, harmless cookie, oatmeal, raisins, he looked up and said, I came for tea. You gave me a trial. Let's see which one you regret more. No one spoke as the lights flickered. Not out of fear. Not yet. It was silence born of dawning comprehension, the kind that doesn't arrive like thunder, but like a slow, spreading leak in the hall of certainty. The council dais, once a monument of absolute command, had become a stage for quiet panic. Delegates whispered in overlapping frequencies. Dignitaries blinked secondary eyelids. Some simply stared at Halvorsen, as if their eyes might finally decode what their intelligence agencies could not. He was still standing there. Center ring. No weapons. No guards. One hand in his pocket, the other holding a biscuit he'd only half eaten. Not a man pleading his case. A man waiting for the punchline to land. And land it did. Chancellor Dorvac's voice finally cracked the silence. You're bluffing. Halvorsen looked at him like a parent might gaze at a child trying to fix a broken vase with glue and hope. I would never bluff with a room this flammable. The lights above them dimmed to a blood-warm amber. On the edge of the chamber, new shadows blinked into existence. Cloaked figures at first. Then screens. Then signals. Human ones. Emergency signals. Embedded into the council's very architecture. Legacy code. Undeletable. Untraceable. Written in a dialect designed to look like a harmless timestamp. One Urishi diplomat shrieked. They've embedded triggers into our own system. A stoic Varnati judge opened his palm and watched as the council's legal database refreshed, reformatting, re-indexing, rerouting. Every clause, every law, rereading itself aloud in Earth Common Standard. Dorvac slammed a fist on the panel. This is treason. No, Halvorsen said. This is compliance. You just never read the fine print. A murmur rippled through the high tiers. Some delegates turned away in shame. Others leaned forward, finally curious. This wasn't war. This was something worse, legal colonization. Judge Califrium of the Centauri Accord leaned toward her mic. You're saying this entire tribunal was orchestrated. Halvorsen gave a small shrug. It was anticipated. There's a difference. You made the moves. We merely arranged the board ahead of time. We, she asked. Earth. The species you mocked as primitive and theatrical. He took another bite of the biscuit. We watched. We listened. And when we asked to join your council, you gave us exactly what we needed. He turned toward the upper gallery, locking eyes with a pair of Xanter military envoys whispering furiously into comlinks. You gave us access. That word settled into the chamber like wet ash. Heavy. Suffocating. A young Calvarian scholar in the observation deck tapped into the treaty archives, fingers trembling. He's not lying. There's a subarticle in Article 7G, cross-referenced by Earth-based exploratory clauses. Hidden in linguistic drift, but it's there. Dorvac hissed, that clause was ceremonial. Halvorson's smile widened. Which is why you all ignored it. And while you were busy measuring empires, we learned how to program your myths. Judge Ephraim whispered, what do you want? He looked at her kindly. We want what every civilized species wants. Peace. Cooperation. Mutual respect. But this. He interrupted, voice firmer now. But peace isn't given. It's enforced. With leverage. The chamber dimmed again. Not power failure. Just drama. A calculated beat. Behind Halvorson, the center podium rose, slowly, revealing something wrapped in stasis, field blue. It rotated, humming. An object. Some thought it might be a weapon. Others thought data. None guessed right. It was a chair. The chair. Blue fabric. Carved human oak. A small side table attachment. A hand-stitched coaster. One of the delegates gasped. He brought his own chair. Halvorson nodded to the audience. I asked nicely. He sat. You've had your turn, he said, voice even. Now I'll tell you a story. Dorvac's mandibles clicked, but no words came. When we arrived in your galactic community, we were laughed at. Humanity had just left its cradle, barely even knew how to terraform without killing the bugs. We brought coffee, diplomacy, jazz. You brought us ultimatums, mockery, controlled agreements. And when that didn't work, you tried sabotage. He folded his hands calmly. And when that didn't work, you tried to kill me. An alien diplomat from the outer rings rose. Why you? Because I write treaties like murderers write alibis, he said, smiling faintly. Because I've never once lied, but I always leave space for your truths to collapse. He leaned forward. Because I'm the nice one. Across the galaxy, feeds were live-streaming this tribunal. Human operatives ensured the signal could not be jammed. On colony worlds, farm children watched. On desert moons, merchant ships paused mid-jump to listen. One Xanter envoy, voice shaking, asked, what is Earth's final demand? Halvorson didn't look at him. He looked at the empty chair at the judge's table. The Emperor isn't here. No. Why? Silence. Then Halvorson answered his own question. Because he already knows what comes next. He reached into his coat. Several guards stepped forward, then froze when he produced only a silver card. He held it up. This is a declaration, signed by 17 member races, including 2 of your council seats. It states that any attempt to use assassination against a neutral diplomat constitutes an act of pre-collapse. He flicked the card toward Dorvac, who caught it with a scowl. You'll find all the proper stamps. Crosscodes. Witnesses. Dorvac squinted. This is dated 7 years ago. Planning takes time. Someone stood. It was High Delegate Mern of the Silent Arm, revered, feared. Until now. He looked small. You set this up. No, Halvorson said. You walked into it. Then, quietly, we just made sure the door locked behind you. That was when the alarms rang. Not on the ship. In the capital. The central chamber of the Emperor's palace had just been broadcast live, with every planetary channel overridden. Not by humans. By the Empire's own security drones. Footage played across the tribunal chamber. An Emperor. Alone. Receiving a report. His expression, smug, then confused, then cut to static. Back in the council hall, Halvorson finally exhaled. No more guessing games, he said. Your Emperor is gone. Alive, perhaps, but dethroned in every meaningful way. He let the silence sink in. then offered a final truth. Earth has no desire to rule. We simply want the rules to mean something. And when they don't, we correct. He stood again, brushing crumbs from his coat. Your chamber has 30 minutes to vote. Vote. Dorvac spat. Yes, Halvorsen said. On whether you wish to remain sovereign or become relevant. He looked around once more. Some faces were unreadable. Some were filled with awe. A few, the dangerous ones, were smiling back. He walked to the exit, paused by the door. The next message, he said, will not be delivered with tea. And then he was gone. The chamber doors closed behind him with a sigh. General Halvorsen walked the corridor slowly, his pace unhurried, as though he hadn't just unseated the most powerful monarch in galactic history with a biscuit and a treaty. Ahead, Earth operatives blended with the shadows. No medals, no flags, just posture and presence, calm, alert, almost bored. He passed them in silence. Report, he said finally. A woman peeled out from the wall beside him, tall, olive-skinned, and dressed in diplomatic gray. Emperor's palace has gone dark. Confirmed evacuation through a decoy port. We believe he's headed for the outer reaches. Secondary fleet stood down after the broadcast. Halvorsen nodded. And the council? Shocked. Disoriented. Half the delegation doesn't know if they've been defeated or promoted. He cracked a dry smile. Good. That's the right mood for negotiation. She hesitated. Are we pushing now? He stopped walking. Looked at her. No. Not yet. They need to believe they still have time. She understood instantly. The illusion of control would break faster if left to rot in their own hands. The hallway led to a smaller chamber, quiet, private, lit by warm lanterns, and a window showing the false night of deep orbit. Inside, a single table was set. 4 chairs. One occupied. Halvorsen stepped in and faced the man already waiting, an older figure. Pale as porcelain, one artificial eye glowing faintly. Director N, Halvorsen greeted. The man nodded once. General, you've moved faster than anticipated. I always do when tea gets cold. They sat. Between them, the table held an object wrapped in cloth. A cylinder, heavy, ancient. Ren rested a hand atop it. They'll think this is the end. It isn't. No, Ren said. It's the part where they start digging their own grave, thinking it a throne. They sat in silence for a moment longer. Then Ren spoke again. Operation Eulogy is complete. Phase 4 is now authorized. Halvorsen didn't react, just looked toward the window. Stars blinked like slow, waiting eyes. They thought we'd react, he said softly. We planned instead. You buried the first one yourself, Ren reminded him. Before the council even knew your name. Halvorsen looked down. The memory was sharp. His first treaty. His first war. The moment he learned diplomacy was just violence that waited for applause. Tell the captains to ready positions, he said. If the vote fails, we scatter their fleets before they remember how to retreat. And if the vote passes, Halvorsen rose. Then we let them praise themselves for surviving a war they never understood. Ren watched him go. Alone. Again. Outside the chamber, a soft chime echoed through the ship. A signal. The vote had begun. Back in the council chamber, tension bloomed like a bruise. Delegates watched the tally form in real time. Votes flickering, hesitating, shifting as species debated survival or pride. More than one ambassador was caught between principle and instinct. Those who had once declared humans too sentimental now whispered their names like prayer. The vote climbed, one by one, until it stalled. 49% in favor of alliance. 49 opposed. 2% abstaining. Chancellor Dorvac gripped the edge of his podium. They hesitate. They grieve, hissed the Urishi judge beside him. For what? For the old world. The illusion of their place in it. In the observation decks, alien journalists were no longer whispering. They were narrating history, some reluctantly, some with awe. They gave us peace, one muttered, and we mistook it for surrender. They let us plan the funeral, another whispered, and brought the coffin already full. In that moment, screens across the chamber flickered. New footage. A slow, low-angle recording of a human child, perhaps 7, reading aloud in a small classroom on a colony planet. Behind him, a chalkboard read, "Diplomatic Logic and Interstellar Treaties." He read in a soft voice, "Article 42. If a government declares another unfit, but acts violently instead of filing the declaration, it forfeits its right to counsel protection." The feed cut, then replaced itself with another. A broadcast of dozens of alien worlds, some previously at war, now showing human advisors working side by side with local officials. Quiet, focused, teaching, not conquering, listening. A third clip played. The Emperor, standing, breathing, surrounded by guards, then kneeling, handing over his crown to no one, just setting it down and walking away. A final message appeared on screen in every galactic dialect. The Empire has vacated its throne. Choose your next move with care. The vote tally shifted. 1% moved. Then another. Then another. It passed. 54% in favor. The council would not go to war. Not today. The chamber erupted, not in cheers, but in gasps. Exhausted relief. Muted applause. Some cried. Others simply stood still, hands trembling, as though they just avoided stepping on the fault line of a planetary core. Dorvac collapsed into his seat. Judge Ephraim whispered, "We just surrendered to a ghost." "No," Dorvac said. "We surrendered to the future." Elsewhere, in the shadows of the docking bay, General Halvorsen watched as a cloaked ship disembarked from the diplomatic platform. Its hull bore no insignia. Its engines whispered instead of roared. A messenger stepped forward, slim, non-human, a species known for silence in the face of death. She handed Halvorsen a scroll, an ancient formality. He opened it. It contained only one line. "There will be no second attempt." Halvorsen nodded. That would be wise. She vanished. As he turned to leave, a voice crackled in his ear, an Earth command transmission from deep orbit. "Sir, incoming signal from the Emperor's private band." He tapped his ear. "Play it." The voice came through, distorted but clear. No title, no crown, just words. "You win, Halvorsen. But tell them this wasn't conquest. It was closure. I ruled an empire of obedience. You've built one of understanding. That makes you more dangerous than any weapon." Halvorsen's jaw clenched faintly. Then he whispered back, "I'm not dangerous." A pause. "But my species is." He cut the channel. Later, in the briefing room, the final report scrolled across the main holo display. Operation Eulogy, complete. Imperial Command, dismantled. Galactic Council status, realigned under probationary alliance. Threat response potential, neutralized. Below it, a footnote. Note: Human General Halvorsen declined formal title or recognition. Requested only that a commemorative library be built on neutral ground, accessible to all species. Ren smirked. He's always a sentimental bastard. The staff around him chuckled, but low and careful. 1 month later, across the galaxy, a monument was unveiled. No flags. No anthem. Just a bronze figure seated at a table, holding a half-eaten biscuit. A plaque read, "Here sat the man who brought war to its knees with tea, patience, and a memory sharper than any blade." And below that, in Earth Common, "Understanding is a weapon. Use it kindly, or don't."